Uncle Howdy and the Wyatt Six have arrived. Let's talk about it. What is going on, everyone? That's right. Last night, Uncle Howdy and the Wyatt Six have finally arrived. After months of the QR codes and the clues and the mysteries and the puzzle solving and all that stuff to go along with it, they finally arrived last night. And let me tell you, it was emotional as, could ever be. It was perfect. It was beautiful. It was everything you could ever want. It exceeded my expectations and then some. And I mean exceeded them and then some. I could have never imagined that what we got last night was what we were going to get, right? It was just mind-blowing, to say the least. And man, you know, you sit here and you put it all in your head and you're trying to think about what it's going to be when it finally gets to that point. After all the weeks of the QR codes and the clues and what are we doing, and just you start to try to put it together in your head what it's going to look like. And man, I got to tell you, yeah, it was way beyond my expectations, way beyond that. You know, Jey Uso's in the crowd, you know, he's doing the yeeting and stuff like that, and you're like, you know, it's coming because they got like 5 minutes left in the show. So when he's doing that, you're saying to yourself, oh, really? What are we doing here? We're not going to end the show like this. But you know they ain't going to end the show like that because you got 5 minutes left. But how exactly is it going to come in? How is it exactly going to be presented? And then the lights start going out. Just like how The Fiend, you know, the lights would come down level by level. And you're just like, oh man, they're doing it. They're doing it. And they're going all in on it, right? The lights go completely down. Everybody's got the fireflies out, which is great. So shout out to Corpus Christi, Texas for really bringing it. That's another thing that people were concerned about. Will they bring it for this? And they did. And they did, thankfully. So the fireflies come out. We see the door and the first note of Shatter hit. And, you know, it plays that same note over and over, the piano note. But we hear that note. We see the door. And I got to tell you, man, it was instantly emotional for me. And before I continue on, if anybody's on this channel watching this right now and you're one of them people that are like, hey man, why are you getting emotional about this stuff, man? It's so dumb, da da da. If you're like that, you can get your punk ass off my channel right now. And if I see you down in the comments, I'm going to block your ass from the channel and sit you on the bench permanently. Because I am not going to put up with that here. I am talking about a person and a character and a human being that I've been invested in for well over a decade, okay? And I take it close to the vest because he knows people that I know, and those people that he knows are the ones that have created a lot of the magic for him that you see that he has brought to you. Because just down the road from me is where all the magic happened for him as far as the costumes and the ideas and the masks. And what we saw tonight also happened just down the road at Jason Baker's studio, Colossum Studios, all right? And man, they killed it. They killed it. I mean, he absolutely nailed this. Like you could not do it any better. And they looked amazing. All right. Anyway, I'm jumping the gun here because I'm just so excited. But I got to tell you, like when I seen the door and heard the note of the song, very emotional. Lights go out completely. We then get the fog and stuff. And we see Nikki coming out. It's very clearly Nikki Cross. All right. She's crawling out. Of course, she has that look from The Ring. It's kind of like the Abby the Witch character, right? With the mask and stuff, but it is Nikki Cross. She's coming out. Very creepy, very cool. She looked absolutely amazing. And then we see her come up to the lantern, which was just super emotional, seeing her at the lantern, right? And she stands up, and then she does the point like we've been seeing in the QR codes with the veiled figure in the QR codes, which clearly is Nikki, all right? She does the point, and then you're like, okay, this is interesting. What are we doing here? And the camera pans to the back, and it just literally in one shot. Now, the fact they did this in one continuous shot is an absolute shout out to the production team and the camera work that's been going on WWE shows lately, because they've been doing these one camera shots, and this was at that next level. That took this one camera shot vibe they've been going for and really took it to the next level, because in one shot, once we see Nikki out there and they go literally in one shot, they go to the back, you're like, oh, what's going on? And then you start to see the carnage. You see the bodies laying there. The first person we see back there is Eric Rowan. Before he turns around, you'll note, and you don't get to see it very quick, you only see a little quick glimpse of it, but before he turns around, Luke Harper's Bludgeon Brothers mask is actually attached to the back of either his mask or the back of the jacket, like the collar of the jacket. I can't tell if it was attached to the collar of the jacket or to the back of the mask, but that right there, you know, is just a wonderful thing to see. He turns around, we see he has the rabbit mask, Ramblin' Rabbit, of course. He's got the mallet. The mallet says help on it. It's got the circle on the ends of the mallet. And he's just standing there all menacing over these bodies. And then we continue on into gorilla position, and the gorilla position is absolutely annihilated. You see bodies strewn about. People are saying they saw Strowman and Triple H and this and that. None of them look recognizable to me. It's just production crew. I don't think any of them were back there. I think people were just seeing what they want to see there. I think it's just production crew and probably some extras and performance center wrestlers coming up to just, you know, be there for bodies, so to speak. But we see blood on the walls and stuff like that, and we pan up and we see someone in a mask, and the mask is a buzzard mask. Looks like Mercy the Buzzard, right? But very menacing. It's almost like a skeletal look, but it's got like the muscle and stuff on it too. I mean, dude. And it's got like the dreads coming out of it, and that's Dexter Lumis. And you can tell because when you see the one arm, you can see that sleeve tattoo that Dexter has. It's exactly it. So, and of course, these were confirmed later on social media as each one has posted now, like Nikki has posted her image, Joe Gacy, so forth and so on. So we know now for sure that's them. But then it keeps continuing forward, and then we see Joe Gacy standing there in the gas mask that looks like a pig head. And so that's Joe Gacy representing Huskus. We go past him and we see the only recognizable wrestler that we've seen so far that you can definitively say that's him, and that's Chad Gable laid out. Looks like he's completely done for. Now, people are saying, you know, they've murdered all these people. You know, you can definitely say that the way it looked, right? But obviously, in my mind and what they're going to go with for sure is that they beat these people down, right? They beat them within an inch of their life, but they're not completely dead, okay? That way, they can come back next week or the week after or whatever, and we're good. Or at least come back with some bandages and bruises and say, damn. But after we see Gable, we pan up and we see him. There he is. Uncle Howdy has returned, and man, not only has he returned, but he has evolved. The look of Uncle Howdy has evolved greatly, and it should be that way, you know? After Bray has passed and we're carrying on this legacy, Uncle Howdy really needed to evolve, and he really did in a spectacular way, honestly. The look, the way he looks now, he's got the dreads now, and of course the Uncle Howdy mask, the way he used to wear it, even when he was like the first iteration of Uncle Howdy, same kind of thing, but it's a little more sleeker now. It's a little bit more form-fitted to his face. It looks better instead of thrown together kind of like how the old one was. I think they kind of just quickly thrown that together because they were trying to get the story going or whatnot. And so here now, since they've had all these months to work on this, and I know Jason Baker, when he's working on something, he needs the time to really work on it, because some of the masks I have from him, you can see hanging above here, just these little half face masks. It takes a while to make these, all right, to make them and make them right. And so he needed the time to really work on this. He really wanted to be this to be special, and he absolutely nailed it. Him and his team. It's not just him. He's got a whole crew over there at Colosseum Studios, and they absolutely nailed it. But Uncle Howdy's got a more form-fitted look to his mask, and it looks great. So has the opening. And this way, of course, you know, if Bo is going to come out as Uncle Howdy, he's not going to be restricted from talking. He's going to totally be able to talk because he's got his mouth right there open. He can talk. He talked at the end of this segment. Anyway, he's standing there, you know, looking all menacing, and he's got this swagger about him, this cool factor about him, real loose, and he's very confident, seems very confident in the role and everything else. And to me, the look of Uncle Howdy now, what we see, it's like he is embodying the spirit of his brother while still being his own character, right? So you have these elements, you know, like the dreads and stuff and whatnot. And the jacket he's wearing is actually the Fiend coat that was supposed to be on the new Fiend that we saw in the documentary. If you go back and watch the documentary and look at that jacket on the new Fiend that we never got, he's actually wearing that coat now as Uncle Howdy. And so that's just an excellent touch. And then he has a Fiend glove on, just one glove, doesn't have a glove on the other hand, but he has just a one glove on. And that glove, instead of saying hurt or heal, says Bray across the fingers. And I mean, you know, how you can't be emotional for that, I have no idea. But he comes out, he's got that swagger about him as he's walking out. Everybody starts to follow behind him. Gacy and Loomis and then Rowan start to follow behind him out to the crowd. They meet Nikki out there in the aisleway. They stand behind Nikki. And while this is happening, you know, Uncle Howdy, Bo, he's looking around. He's got this big grin on his face, you can see. And I mean, he has to be over the moon with how this feels and what he's doing to carry on his brother's legacy. It is his brother at the end of the day, his flesh and blood. And he's going to continue this story that his brother, this vision his brother had, that he definitely knows about, because in the documentary we know that they discussed all these ideas together. So Bo knows where he wanted to go with this, and he's continuing the vision that Bray had, the final vision that Bray had, the Wyatt 6. And man, he just, you know, it's very emotional, very emotional. He reaches down in front of Nikki, grabs a lantern, and they're all standing there together, and it's just an absolutely amazing moment to see. And then, of course, he holds up the lantern, and he says it, "We're here," blows out the lantern, man. And then there's like a little creepy flash of Nikki at the end with the Abigail mask on. It almost looks like a porcelain doll, shattered doll face, right? But very, very sinister looking. And man, so emotional, right? And I didn't expect to get that emotional. Like, it's always emotional when we're dealing with something with Bray, and we're really, you know, huge fans of his and whatnot, but I never imagined I'd be that emotional over it. And I went back and I watched it 4 or 5 more times, that segment, and every time I kept getting emotional. I'm actually challenging myself to try and not get emotional so that I can more analyze it a little better instead of just being emotional the whole time. But man, it is tough. It is tough to watch that and not get emotional and really try to analyze everything, because it's just man, every time it starts up and I'm watching it, it's just man, you can feel him here. You can feel him here. You can feel his presence in everything that happened there. And I mean, you can literally feel it, right? There's not many people in my life that have passed away to where I can actually feel their presence. One of them, one of the only ones that I truly can say that about, is my grandfather who raised me, all right? So in my life, Mom and Dad weren't really around. My grandfather was the one who raised me. He was my dad, essentially. He has since passed away, of course. He is one of the very, very, very few people that I actually feel their presence when certain things happen, or certain moments or times that I feel like I need to feel them in order to get through something or something like that, right? Very few people that I feel like that about. But Bray, man, Wyndham Rotunda, you know, he's one of them, because last night I really felt his presence, and I think that's why it was so emotional, because you could just feel it, and it was great. They nailed it. It wasn't, for all these people saying, "Oh, I can't deal with the supernatural stuff," man, nothing about last night was supernatural. okay? Absolutely none of it was supernatural. It was literally just people, and then you have people that were beat down to within an inch of their life, right? So none of it was really supernatural at all. It was just a place run amok. And quite frankly, if we're going to go like compare it to anything horror movie related, to me, it was kind of like House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, that kind of thing, right? You know, Psycho Circus type of deal. Very Rob Zombie style. I bet if Rob Zombie saw this, he would absolutely love it. I think he would absolutely love it for sure. But it was very much in that vein, kind of Slipknot vibes. If you're in the music scene, it kind of had that vibe too. But it was very, you know, that kind of horror movie, Devil's Rejects kind of thing, right? There's nothing supernatural about that. It's just crazy people in the backwoods, right? So that's the vibe I got. As far as the masks and stuff like that, people were like, oh, they're going to wrestle in these masks. I don't really think so. I think that if anyone's going to wrestle in the mask, it's going to be just Bo. If we're talking about people that are going to wrestle in the mask, I think if anybody was to, it will probably be just Uncle Howdy, and that's where that's going to be, right? Because we know that Dexter Lumis has been changing his appearance. He's been growing out the beard. He's been letting his hair grow. We've seen these behind-the-scenes images that were captured of him. So we know he's been changing his look. And you could see that in the close-up shots of the Mercy the Buzzard mask that he was wearing. You could see the beard sticking out, so we know that he's changed his look. And then, of course, we know what Rowan looks like, and Gacy and Nikki and all that. And I think that when they come out to wrestle, they're going to come out with their masks on, you know, much like the Wyatt family. Rowan would come out with his mask on. Strowman would come out with his mask on. You know, when the time got to the ring, you take the mask off and you're going to wrestle, right? So I think that that's how it's going to work. They come out to the ring, they're wearing the masks, and then, of course, when it's time to get in the ring and wrestle, they take the mask off. I think that with Uncle Howdy, he may wrestle in the mask just to maintain the Uncle Howdy persona, or maybe we see Bo without the mask. You know, you never know. They could come out next week and they're more grounded and realistic, reality-based, like just regular clothes and everything else, kind of like Bray did when he came back that one time, and we get that version of them as well. There may be like two versions of these people where the intimidating version comes in, and these are what you're going to see when they come out to wrestle. But when they get in the ring, they take the mask off and this and that. I don't think that you're going to have these characters like Nikki and Dexter Lumis and all that. I don't think they're changing their names, okay? I don't think any of that's happening. I think we're going to see them take the masks off. That's Dexter Lumis. That's Nikki Cross. That's Joe Gacy. That's Eric Rowan. Really, Eric Rowan is not going to wrestle in a giant rabbit mask. You know this is not going to happen. So eventually, when he goes to wrestle, he's going to take the mask off. It's Eric Rowan, right? And so, like I said, in my mind, we may see Uncle Howdy without the actual mask on, but I feel like if anyone is going to wrestle in the mask, it's just going to be Uncle Howdy, and everybody else will take their masks off, okay? That's just how I'm seeing it. It's just how I'm seeing it. Now, we're going to get to something here that it just drives me crazy. It really does. Because I have my opinions and my theories about things, and when you put them out there in the universe, for some reason, the Alexa stands, they just come out with their pitchforks and they poke and prod you, and they're just angry at anything you say that isn't Alexa being in this group. Okay? So I know there's so many people that just want Alexa to be in the group, That's why it's called the Wyatt Six. Let me say this. My opinion. So put you Alexa stands out there, put the pitchforks down for a minute. It's just an opinion. You do not have to subscribe to said opinion, okay? But I'm going to lay it out for you. Alexa Bliss is not part of the group, and it's not going to be a part of the group, okay? That's my opinion, all right? I did not say she's not going to be part of the story. In fact, she's probably going to be a big part of the story. Because for all you Alexa stands out there that want her to be in the group, the same could be said about Braun Strowman. He has just as much history with the Wyatt universe as anybody. So he could, I mean, you could sit there and say the same thing about Braun Strowman, which then, you know, you're past the 6 at that point, right? You're at 7 at that point. The 6th person in the group in my opinion, and just the way we've been seeing it, is the spirit of Bray Wyatt. Because originally, this was the vision before he passed, and he would have been the sixth guy or the leader of this group, and then Uncle Howdy, and then so forth and so on. And he wanted to work with Nikki, and he wanted to work with guys like Dexter Lumis and Joe Gacy, and we know this, so that was kind of what I'm feeling, is that his spirit is the six, okay? And then it's spelled S-I-C-K-S, S-I-C-K, 6, right? And then in the previous QR code, we see that line of letters, that represents the first letter of each name of the people in this group. U for Uncle Howdy, E for Eric Rowan, J for Joe Gacy, N for Nikki Cross, D for Dexter Lumis, and then there's a 1 and an A. I may have not had those letters in order, but you know what I mean. But then there's a 1 and an A at the end, like a plus 1A at the end, right? And of course, people are like, well, that's Alexa. It'll be add Alexa later, this and that and whatever. I understand that. I completely understand that. I can totally see that. And if that is the case, cool. That's fine. In my opinion, and in my theory, though, okay, you have all the letters, and then the 1A is plus 1 angel, Bray. Okay? That's my opinion. That's just my theory. Alexa stands, put your pitchforks down. It's just an opinion, okay? But that's how I view it. The 1A is the 1 angel, Bray Wyatt. And that is just how I see it, okay? Until they tell me otherwise, that's how I'm going to view it, all right? I never said I didn't want Alexa to be a part of the story. She's probably going to be a huge part of the story, because if you remember, she betrayed Bray Wyatt, okay? And then shortly after, Bray was released from the company, and they continued to promote her heavy. She was never forgotten. She was never pushed to the side. Okay, and then even then after, going all through the therapy and everything else, they continued to feature her prominently on television in a big way until she got pregnant and left for maternity leave, all right? And leading up to that, by the way, Uncle Howdy was tormenting her, not because he was going to bring her back into the group, in my opinion, but because they were going to get revenge on her eventually down the road, and that probably is where they were going to bring in Nikki to the group, because leading into that, Nikki is forgotten about. Nikki has been pushed to the side, and she has actually been forgotten about and pushed to the side by Alexa Bliss. Okay? We're in an era of Triple H running the show. Triple H runs this thing, and he likes to have logic involved and long-term storytelling, and believe me, if you think they weren't thinking about that with the history of Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross and how they had a fallout, they've had their falling out, she had the falling out with Bray Wyatt and turned on him and everything else. If you think that's not going to be factored in, you're crazy, man. Because it absolutely will be factored in. In my theory, it's factored in, okay? If they don't, then I think it's a huge missed opportunity, because there's so much story you could tell there, right? But like I said, this group is made up of people that have been pushed to the side, forgotten. Maybe they had a group around them and that group left them, or they've been completely released altogether. Okay, that's kind of what this group is made up of. And Alexa Bliss is none of that. And Braun Strowman is none of that either. Yes, Braun Strowman did get released at one point, but he was brought back relatively quickly, and he's very much featured heavy everywhere, okay, on the show. He's a very prominent figure on the show. And when Alexa comes back, she'll be, once again, right back in that spot of being prominently featured on the show, okay? So, and then plus the history between Strowman and Bray and stuff, and they had a little thing there in the pandemic era and all that stuff. So, yeah, you see what I mean? Like the whole Alexa thing and the Strowman thing, it don't make sense for them to be in this group, It just doesn't, because the history that's there says otherwise. Alexa and Nikki, there's a history there, and it's not a good one. Alexa and Bray, yes, she was a big part of it, but she turned on him and then continued to use his shtick after they released him from the company, okay? Prominently featuring her with his stuff, even though they released him, which is, that's cold, man. I know it ain't her fault. I know that, okay? But in the storyline world of what we're talking about here, it makes sense that they wouldn't want her in the group, especially Uncle Howdy, the brother of Bray. Why would he want her in the group when she did all this dirty work to him, right? And that's why he was tormenting her and stuff before Bray got sick and left. And then it kind of just, we never got the continuation of it. Well, this is the continuation of it. And again, Alexa stands, put your pitchforks down. Oh, she's going to be in the group, man. I know that's how you feel. You've said it a million times. I get it. But don't be mad when what I'm saying could be reality and how they go with it, because to me, that's the most logical way to go. You could even have Strowman and Alexa going up against them because, you know, they're going to want to take them out because of the history and the past. You know, it's just something to think about. Something to think about. Keep your pitchforks down. Just an opinion. Okay? But that's my thoughts on that. So, just a wonderful thing. A wonderful thing to see them back. And, man, I got a lot more to talk about with it, but we'll do it in another video. This has gone on long enough. Just super emotional. I'm going to end up watching that segment a million more times. And that's just where I'm at with it right now. So we'll talk more about it down the road. And, man, just super, super happy to see this. It's just great. It's just absolutely great. I'm glad to be on the ride with you guys with this, and can't wait to see where it goes. So with that said, I will catch you all down the road.